Neil, is your New Year's resolution to join Telegram?
It is now.
Me too. Let's all be on Telegram. Except we're already there, but maybe you're not. Join us, Analysis in Chains, on Telegram.
This is the Analysis in Chains with Nathan Williams and Neil Kieran.
Welcome to Analysis in Chains. Happy New Year, Neil.
Happy New Year, Nathan. Are you happy to see the end of 2018?
I don't know. It was a pretty okay year. I mean, crypto didn't really take off in the way that we all expected it to. We didn't have the 50,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed it didn't hit that by the 31st of December. I was still holding on hope that it could just rocket up 50,000% in one day. But in saying that, 2018 was a very eventful year. And while 2017 was a lot of hype and a lot of mania, I think we learned a lot in 2018. And
without a doubt.
Yeah, it was definitely a year of getting back to fundamentals and realizing that, this was a massive bubble. But I love bubbles in general, and I always find busts are just as much fun as a sort of upward bubble. I had a fun year, but can't say my portfolio did.
The thing about blockchain is that you've always had this core of idealists who went into Bitcoin believing that it would take over and completely supplant fiat currency. And I don't think anything's changed with that group.
Yeah, it's definitely a narrative that's been going on for quite a few years. And whenever I listen to podcasts and people have been interviewed who have been in crypto for a long time, they would always mention, the reason I was attracted to Bitcoin was because, the ECB, European Central Bank, or the Fed in the USA have been printing money and fiat is doomed and all this type of stuff. And I think, that hypothesis has gained some followers over the last few years. And I think 2019 is the year that will be put to test, because the US dollar has been very, very strong, despite the fact that the US has a lot of debt. And it is widely expected by many economists that come mid-2019, we should start to see a weakening dollar. It's more just to do with macroeconomic trends. US dollar has been quite weak. It has been quite strong for many years, which has weakened many emerging market economies. And, when your own currency is strong for a while, that can hamper your own economic output. And so many suspect that the reversal will start mid this year. With a weakening US dollar, that is seen as when things will fall apart. That all of a sudden USA will have hyperinflation, and then Bitcoin will shoot up to $100,000, and the whole world will go from US dollar dependency to Bitcoin dependency. That's the big hypothesis. And, to be honest with you, I think that's a big stretch. And if it doesn't happen in 2019, I think that a lot of these maximalists may have to revise, their big hypothesis and why they're big into Bitcoin.
I have a hard time seeing it, Neil. It's not that it couldn't happen. It's that there are a couple of things that would need to fall into place for Bitcoin maximalism to happen. Because what we've seen in the past is this idea that Bitcoin will be the inverse of the market, right? If the market is weak, if the US dollar is weak, if something horrible happens, people will flood into Bitcoin. But we've seen the exact opposite happen. We've seen Bitcoin follow the market. In 2018, there were a number of times when the market overall tanked, and Bitcoin did at the same time. Now, this is not for one particular reason, but some of the factors include the fact that most people got into Bitcoin because they wanted to make money, not because they wanted to start using an alternative currency and spend it. And I think that's the difference between the Bitcoin maximalists and the retail Bitcoin investors who came in, where most of the money came in. Retail investors were not expecting to spend their Bitcoin. It'll be interesting to see what happens, I think, in 2019, because as a lot of the retail investors have sort of peeled away, it may end up being that the people who remain are more Bitcoin maximalists and more inclined to use it as a currency. But even so, the average person doesn't want to spend their Bitcoin, and even the Bitcoin maximalists are there to hodl. They're not there to spend.
Yeah, no, I think you make a very good point, because when you go on Twitter these days, like, the battle still rages. You have your Bitcoin maximalists saying that there'll only ever be one, and 2018 proved that all other crypto is a waste of time and isn't worth much at all. The big problem with maximalism is that you have to understand why fiat currency works today. While many people think it doesn't work, the biggest thing is that if you're in a country and you have your own currency, and for whatever reason you have a recession or you have to stimulate economic growth, or maybe there's some bubbles, having your own central bank to sort of raise interest rates is a very important tool. And if there were to be a world where everyone has the same currency, that's actually quite dangerous. If you look at how things are in USA and in Europe, in the Eurozone, you have one currency controlling a big area, a very diverse area with different economies. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is a lot of there's very, very few parts of, say, USA or Europe that is taking a lot of the wealth. You have a lot of poorer regions and a lot of poverty now all over America and also all over Europe. And it's getting worse because some of these regions, they're at the mercy of the central bank. There's not much that they can do to sort of ignite, say, their own economy. Look at Italy and look at the difficulties that they have. It's very hard for them to get themselves out of their debt problems when they're at the mercy of a central bank that's trying to think of the bigger picture for the whole region. Imagine Bitcoin being the de facto currency of the world. It will end up that you have very, very few parts of the world that are very, very rich, and the rest will be suffering. And this is why, to me, Bitcoin maximalism doesn't work. Is there an issue with the US dollar and debt? Yes, there is. I don't think anyone disputes that, but I don't think that Bitcoin is going to be the mechanism that is going to save us from some of the risks of the US dollar and the amount of debt that's taken on. History has shown that we've been in this cycle before, be it with the pound or other currencies. And what ends up happening is that, yes, another currency may replace the US dollar, but that ends up happening over a period of 40 to 50 years. So it's not something that will happen in a period of 1 or 2 years, for example, that many people.
Well, I mean, if you think of the average person and what it takes to actually buy and use Bitcoin, it involves making an account on an exchange, means going through KYC on that exchange. It means purchasing the Bitcoin with fiat, some sort of transfer of fiat currency. And then it means holding it either online or in a hardware wallet or in a software wallet, which means that your wealth is now stuck in what amounts to electronic cash. And these are all challenging user interface issues that would block grandma and granddad from buying and using Bitcoin instead of US dollars, euros, Canadian dollars, or what have you. Now, when you're talking about unstable economies like Venezuela, I'm sure they're all on board for crypto. We've seen Venezuela attempt with their petrodollar or petro crypto, or I've forgotten even what it's called.
I think it's the
Petrocoin, something like that.
Oh no, or is it just a petro?
It was based on oil anyway, and it never took off. Part of it sure is because you can say, well, it's centralized. It's held by Venezuela or whatever. It's not just the fact that it's crypto. You're absolutely right. There are certain things that governments and states and even individuals need from their currency. And Bitcoin may provide it at some point, but it isn't there yet. And people don't want it to be there. People want Bitcoin to make them piles of money. And therein lies the rub. I mean, if you look at people developing on base level protocols in developing world, so like in Africa, I have seen more cases of projects building on Ripple than I have projects building on Bitcoin. Yes,
What?
because it's stable. I mean,
What?
it's relatively. It's, it's you know how much your transfer fees are going to be. It's you've got a couple of big banks backing you. It's got a lot of appeal for the needs of that market, whereas Bitcoin has what it takes to be the needs to meet the needs of a completely decentralized world. That isn't completely decentralized anymore because you have a couple of really powerful players. I don't know.
It's like in this episode, it's not that we've given up on Bitcoin and whatever. I think many people may think, "Whoa, this is different."
No.
Tone from Neil and Nathan. But the thing is, I'm so bullish on crypto and all of the opportunities are coming. It's just that I just noticed in recent weeks that the louder voice is Bitcoin maximalism, and I think you're right. So many people have probably given up on this space, and a lot of the guys I used to follow on YouTube have all recently done videos saying, "Is this it? I think this could be my last video for a few months." There is definitely a sense of, it's over, and the really hardcore guys in Bitcoin are still there. But I follow Bloomberg a lot, and they have a lot of amazing discussions with a lot of key players in crypto. And you can see that a lot of their discussions isn't about Bitcoin. It's just about, blockchain projects that provide liquidity in different ways. And I think a lot of people are excited about security tokens in 2019. And I think they themselves will be the biggest challenge to Bitcoin maximalism. Because if we see security tokens take off, this could end up being the killer app for crypto. And therefore, could really take the wind out the sails of Bitcoin maximalists. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin is dead. It just means that the narrative, I think, of blockchain could end up changing if we start to see a lot of success.
One of the things that we did see in 2018 was something that I guess old school economists have known for a while, which is that a completely unregulated market is less efficient than a well-regulated one. And a completely decentralized crypto, unfortunately, ended up being subject to a couple of powerful whales, or a small group of powerful whales, and people manipulating prices on Telegram. Unfortunately, a well-regulated market tends to be more efficient. The question, I think, for 2019 is it possible to regulate crypto in a decentralized way? Is it possible to build into the rules of the economy or the rules of the coin more than just the rules for distribution, but also the rules for transparency, privacy, insider trading, price manipulation? And one of the ways may be through security tokens, having a wider group of people getting the benefit from decentralized fees or decentralized operating protocols. And I think that it's going to take a lot of creativity. They're not going to be simple answers. I am still very bullish on blockchain. I'm also very bullish on crypto in general and decentralized protocols. And I think realistically, it's not going to be as simple as we thought it was going to be in 2017.
I think one of the best possibilities for Bitcoin is that I can imagine a world where Bitcoin is the main currency of a virtual world, on the internet. If you think of all of these crypto projects based, they're like virtual worlds, be like Decentraland, for example. There is where I can see Bitcoin becoming the currency, the main currency there. But yeah, it becoming the main currency of the real physical world, yeah, I struggle to see it. And I think that a lot of these regulated institutions are going to be looking at security tokens because they believe that our generation and other generations which have lost a lot of trust in financial institutions, they probably realize that actually if they use blockchain, this is a way of regaining their trust. And like millennials are now at the investment cycle of their lives. Usually when they hit their 30s, they buy their house, they have their kids, they're starting to think, okay, now I have to start saving for retirement. And I'm sure a lot of financial institutions are thinking, what tools can we have? What products can we have that are trustworthy for this new generation because they want to put their money somewhere. A lot of them are disillusioned from the financial crisis 10 years ago. A lot of the Americans out there are weighed down by student debts. And so they're looking at this generation and thinking, okay, well, what can we offer them? And, going back to your point, the Wild Wild West, was fun for a lot of people. A lot of people made money. But the thing is that your average Joe down the street, he's not going to dabble in those type of markets. He wants something a bit more steady, a bit more stable. And so I can see 2019 on, we're going to see a lot more of these products like security tokens coming out. And, you'd be surprised. I think a lot of people will really jump on them. And a lot of these ideas, I can't wait to investigate them further because I hear about projects like in real estate where you have a building, it's put on the blockchain and you can buy shares or coins in the building. Now, how that works in a decentralized way that needs blockchain, I don't know yet.
Even with the 2018 being sort of the downward trend, even with all of the challenges that blockchain and Bitcoin face and the disillusionment a lot of people have with crypto, it was created to solve a problem, and that problem still exists. One group of people have set rules to regulate a market, and certain individuals or companies have learned to navigate and game the system and get an advantage over everybody else. And so you have an unequal distribution of power, financial power, in our economy and in our system. And this was what Bitcoin was set to replace. And I really do get the heart of the Bitcoin maximalists. I think pragmatically, it's going to be a real challenge to get it adopted beyond a small group of people who are really devoted to it. However, as long as we keep that problem in mind, we now have new tools in which to deal with it. And I'm hoping that 2019 is going to bring, with these security tokens or with these other types of projects, solutions that include more people in the financial future of our world.
Yeah, I'm completely with you there, Nathan. Like, we're in a world now where there's usually 3-4 dominant players per industry. And, to have a technology like blockchain that could sort of disrupt a lot of these markets, I think is to the benefit of all of us. And yeah, I really hope from 2019 onwards, we're going to see, some of these products that are going to be last more than a year, like ICOs. Hopefully we start to see more of those now.
All right, Neil, don't get too drunk and have a great new year. And here's to another year of Analysis in Chains.
Take care, Nathan. Happy New Year.